In this video, I'm going to walk through a couple familiar steps, and ultimately, I'm going to show you how to handle the data that you collected for Lab 2, the business survey locations that you yourself have collected. They end up looking like this, and so I'm going to show you how to handle this object once you get it into ARC. And the bottom line is, you will land on this file in one of two different ways, and that kind of is determined by the status of the points themselves as you encounter them in Collector, or excuse me, ArcGIS Online. We're all learning how to use Collector and Arc Online and ArcGIS Pro this semester, and I'm no exception. I actually set this assignment up a little bit wrong. What I intended to do was, if you recall in Lab 1, when you were looking at Collector, you could only see the data that you were collecting, but I could see everybody's data. As the creator of the interface, I could see everybody's data. Now, what I intended to do in this lab was exactly the same thing, so that when you turn on Collector, you're just looking at a blank interface and you see the points that you add as you collect them. But I made it possible for everybody to see everybody's data. What that means is, if you enter data early, you're going to have to take one approach. If you entered data later on, you'll take a different approach to getting your data into ARC. Eventually, we'll all end up in the same place. If you are in Collector, what I recommend doing in Collector is going to, or excuse me, in ArcGIS Online, and this is the place to start for Lab 2. In Arc Online, go to Our Group, and then within Our Group, take a look at the content for Our Group, and you'll see the Lab 2 Biz Survey map. That's the document to start with. And just like we did in previous exercises, what you're going to do is look at the layers in this file, or in this map, and there's just one layer. It's called Places. It's the point locations that you yourself have added. And go to Layers and take a look at it. What you would see before, I'm going to open up, you'll see I've opened up the file Lab 2 Business Points. So I'm now looking at the points file that we've created, and I'm going to take a look at it in Map Viewer. And when I zoom in, you can already see that I'm looking at everybody's data as it exists on Monday morning. And if this is what you see, that means that you take one path. That's the path I'm actually demonstrating here for bringing your file into ArcMap. Now, if you're looking at this and you just see the points you collected alone, then you'll take exactly the same approach that we took in Lab 1, which is to say, you will export these as a shapefile to your content collection at ArcGIS Online, and then download it as a zipped file. That file will be in WGS Web Mercator, and you want to project it into State Plane, and then your points are ready for what we're going to do in Lab 2 this week. If you're not one of those, if you're looking at a bunch of points on this map, that means you should take the path that I'm demonstrating in this video. If you have any questions about how this instruction applies to you in your circumstance, drop us a line. I'd be happy to help you sort out what to do to get your data prepared. And we'll also be, I'll be explaining this process in lab. What I've downloaded then, and I'll show you the steps in case you don't remember them. I'm going to go back to our content page. So now I'm looking at the information about that file that I was just looking at a map of, and I'm going to say export data, and I'm going to export these to a shapefile, and I'll call these biz locations and my name. And you'll see that this is exporting to my folder at Arc Online, but this file will be in my folder, not in the group folder anymore. It's going to be my version of it. And you can name this anything you like. I suggest giving it a name that makes sense to you, and you'll see when you download it, it's given a generic name anyway. And I'll say export. Takes a minute for it to export because in this case, there are about 1,000 points that it's saving. But eventually, when it's done, I'm going to take the same step we did in the previous lab. And what will happen when this is done is it will open up the file at my content collection. So it'll show me the version with this name in it, and you'll see that it's in your content collection, not at the group page anymore. And there'll be an option to download the result. So you want to download that and open it up in Arc. And so you can see now I'm looking at that newly created file in my content collection. And I'm going to click download, and it will save down here bizpoints calerc.zip. Yours will have a slightly different name. The next step is going to be to do exactly what we did in the previous exercise, which is now go to Arc, open up a map without a template, and then open up Arc Catalog. So I went to View, and I called it Arc Catalog. That's its previous name. I open up Catalog View. In Catalog View, I'm able to navigate by first connecting to that folder in which I put those files that I just downloaded from Esri, or put that zipped file. I have unzipped the file into the folder that I have mapped called Lab 2. And when I unzip it, disregard this one, the object that I've unzipped is called layer1.shp, and yours probably is too. I'm just going to rename this. You'll see that if you click on it a couple times, you can light up the editing feature here and just change it directly. So I'm going to call it bizpoints, just something I can remember, calerc. I may suggest a different name in the instructions. I think it's helpful to go with the names that I suggest just because it makes it easier if you have questions to figure out where you are by tracing the file names. But that's how you rename it. Right now you can see I'm looking, or I was looking at the geography of that file. So I'm just seeing the point locations on a base map. And I am also able to look at the table, and I can see that collectively in this file there are about 900 different point locations. So I've got a lot of your data in here. Now, if you're in this path, if you were downloading the collective data of our class, the thing that you have to figure out is, okay, so how do I determine which ones are mine? The first thing I'm going to do is project this into state plane. And I'm going to take exactly the same approach we took before. I'm just going to open up projection tool in the toolbox. And that lives, if I click on toolboxes, under data management, and then projections and transformations. And the project tool looks like this. I'm going to take that set of points, make sure that it's saving to my Lab 2 folder. Sometimes it's helpful to navigate. In this case, I've created a folder directly on the Downloads tab just to make this a little faster. And I'm just telling it, yeah, that's where these points are. And I'll then name that file exactly the same thing as the old file with SP, state plane. When I save that, it's just saving that information. I'm not yet running the projection. And here, I'm going to navigate to the state plane system yet again. You've seen this before a couple times, but hey, it never gets old. I think I opened the wrong folder. I'm looking for state plane, not state systems. I'm working with an unfamiliar mouse this morning. And so now I'm in the NAD83 US feet folder, and I'm looking for Maryland. There we are. Now I can identify this as one of my favorite projections, and I recommend doing it because that means next time I don't have to scroll through all that stuff. But I'm projecting this into state plane. Strictly speaking, this isn't necessary for the next step, but I recommend doing it just to have it out of the way. And I'm going to insert a new map. You notice I just deleted an old map. I'm inserting a new map because I want to make sure that everything in this map follows the projection that I want to follow. And so I'm going to grab that BizPoints state plane version and drop it into a brand new map. What this does is it sets the coordinate system for that new map. I lost my points. There are a few ways you can get this in here. You can use the add data tool, but I also like to just drag and drop directly. And there are the points. So you can see you guys have been all over the place. Now there are two different ways that you can find your data. In my case, if I zoom into where I was collecting data in Kensington, let's see, I'm not quite there yet. My base map is loading slowly. What I'm trying to do is locate my survey location, which could well be here. This is Kensington. Here, so here are my points. And you'll notice nobody else collected data there. These are just the points that I collected. If I look at the attribute table of this file, I'll see all 900 plus points. And if I manually select my points, I can go up to Map and click one time on this icon called Select, and it allows me to draw a rectangle on here and select whatever's in that rectangle, which in this case is my points. You'll notice I have selected 41 locations. These are the data that I collected. If I look at them, you can see they're all done with my phone. Which is a sort of idiosyncratic model that I got for a few different reasons. But anyhow, yeah, those are the points that I collected. There's also a date on these somewhere, probably, and possibly a time. Let's see if we can find it. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, there's the date. I don't see a time. And in my case, it identifies me as the creator of these data. But I think that's because I own all the data. So I think my name appears there. It appears everywhere there. Anyway, I've selected my points, and I'm pretty convinced that these are only my points, but I can go back and take a closer look later on. And having selected them, let me just show you a couple little tricks. Let me make sure I get them right. I just clicked, and you'll notice that they unselected, and now I'm getting all 41 of them. Within the attribute table, if I click on this icon, I'm only looking at my selections, and it tells me down here at the bottom that 41 out of 915 are selected. That's mine. And I can switch back to look at the entire data table. So you can see everybody's that are presently in the data table. And I can now export these. And I'm going to do that by right-clicking on the name of the file, saying Data, and Export Features. And I'll be careful about where I send these and what I name them. But now these really are my points. And so if you follow these steps, if you have a survey area that's off by itself and you don't wonder if, hey, are these my points and somebody else's points maybe, then this is the step to take and you are ready to proceed with Lab 2.